Hi, Ross Quintana here with Social Magnets, and thanks for tuning in. This message is about my new blog post coming out. It's called The Power of Being Real. And in it, we're going to talk about a handful of topics. Usually I break down each of these segments. This is going to be the full 30-minute message, and I break these down into smaller 5 or 10-minute videos as well for each bullet point, and then I put it all together in a blog post. So we're going to be covering things like brands and ideas, marketing to tell stories, the unseen effect of relationships, and then what I call humans behind and humans in front. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it means, what's going on with marketing right now, and where marketing kind of came from and how it's approached to dealing with its prospects. It has kind of taken a certain path over time, and the reason, I'm a marketing strategist, so when I look at these things and as an analyst, I just see what's wrong with marketing, and I see smarter ways to do it. And a lot of times, hopefully some of these videos will challenge people in the way that they think about things and understand that there's smarter, better ways to do things. And to be smarter with your customers. Doesn't matter if you're a self-employed entrepreneur, or if you're building a new business, or you own a large business. The reality is, what's crazy about ideas is once an idea gets in the right people's minds, it can change everything. And so there's thousands of people who can tell you, self-proclaimed, marketing experts or social media experts or whatever, gurus, who will tell you, 5 ways to, get more pins on Pinterest, or how to, grow your email list and all that. And to me, a lot of that stuff, though great, that's just not my style. A lot of that stuff is more like, to get this result, do this. And it's very kind of, I want this, so this is how I'll get it kind of situation. And there comes a point when people have to pay attention to the process and say, what am I doing? And does it, am I doing it for the right reasons? And, is there a smarter way? Is there a more effective way? And does the way that I do things even matter? For a lot of businesses, it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, it's just all about the bottom line numbers. But I know that there's, even if it comes down to the numbers, you can still do it smarter and you'll get better numbers. But for some people, it's not just about the numbers. Somehow it's all about the bass keeps playing in the back of my head when I said that. So the thing is that there's a lot of people who, as business evolves, it doesn't have to stay plastic the way it is, and it doesn't have to stay stupid the way it is either, as well as marketing. So that's what I'm going to tackle, and that's just a little bit about my style. At the end of the day, I really don't care what everybody's doing or how it's always been done. As an innovator, I look at how it can be done and understanding the bigger picture and the mechanics of how things work. And it's from there that you can really innovate and that you can really make a difference. And I think the future is going to be all about creativity and innovation. I mean, now at schools, they're teaching people to create. Like the old style, if you look at education, it was all about creating employees and compliance. And now that whole thing is flipping on its head, and they're realizing that employees and compliance isn't what the future is holding. There's no promise there. And so there's a self-awareness in education right now that's going to hit a few generations out, that all of a sudden we have to be creators and innovators. And that's dramatically, not just part of it's in response just to keep up with the real world, but and to make sure you're relevant. But the unintended consequence of that and output of that is going to be an increased acceleration. We think we're accelerating, we're moving fast now. Wait for these generations that are finally being taught to think many of them for the first time, and to see things and to explore and to imagine, and they're doing it at a fast pace. When that hits the future, it's going to be, hyperdrive. So let's just jump in here. Let's check out this concept. It's called the power of being real, and I could write anything that I want. I sit there and think, okay, what am I gonna write a blog post? I write for other blogs, on various topics, and now when I sit down, I'm thinking, okay, well, what do I want to write about? And I try and think, well, what do people need to hear? And everybody's saying all the noise and the basic stuff out there. And there's 100 articles to figure out how to grow your Facebook following. A lot of times I stay conceptual because I think there's more. It's what's lacking. People lack understanding of social media. People lack understanding of marketing and how things really work, and they end up getting caught in this, like, going from one tactic and one new app, and Meerkat's hot. Okay, so we got to know what that. But no, wait, well, over here was Periscope. Do we need to get on that? Do we need to get on this platform? And do we need to get on that? And or do I need these 3 tactics? And that would change everything. And it's like, well, those things could be really useful if you start with a solid foundation. And the cream really does. It's so funny. The things that I say and what I'm thinking in the back of my mind that I hear, everyone's not privy to that. I was thinking the cream always rises to the top, and then that made me think of the old professional wrestler Randy Macho Man Savage, who was talking about the cream. It always rises to the top,
Whether or not being, but the cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah.
Cream does rise to the top, and it's such a true statement across so many things that there's an element to quality. I'm a person of quality. The things that I do, the things that I purchase, the people that I engage with, to me, quality in life really matters. It doesn't have to be about having everything, but having very quality things in your life, having quality thoughts. That I put a premium on, and I really have an appreciation for. It's actually all the average things that kind of clutter the world up. And it's the same with the internet. It's what's average that, you have to sift through all that junk to find a couple of gems and consume them for yourself and share them to others, and act as a filter for them. But there's a value in being real. And I'm going to talk real quickly now. That was my 8-minute introduction. I don't give a damn because when I do these videos and stuff, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about, and it's not scripted. I've always felt that if you're not enough of an interesting person or an expert in what you're talking about to sit down and press the little red light on and have a conversation, then what are you doing? There's a lot of people. It's like, oh, I researched this and I'm reading a teleprompter and this is my script, and it's like, then you're not exploring the topic with your listeners. We explore it together. It's not something, I'll have a couple bullet points in my mind that I want to talk about, and I'm just a freestyle from there as far as what's interesting about that. The world is hella interesting. If you don't realize that, then you got to get out more. There's so much going on, and for someone like me who has a passion for learning, it's almost endless, the stimulation and the interesting things out there. Thank you, Internet. Now, getting back to this, our first concept is brands are ideas. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because the power of being real. I want to talk about what it means to be real. And it seems so, oh, everybody's real. Aren't you real? Aren't I real? Not everybody's real. And when you put that in the context of marketing, it gets even worse because very few companies and very little marketing is real. It's mostly contrived or manipulated manipulating, it's tactics, it's you know, it has nothing to do with, like, you watch a car commercial. I mean, it's blatant. You know, it's oh, look at this, family's having fun and all this, or, you know, oh, look how much this guy loves his wife. And then at the very end, it's, oh, check out it's a great car, it's a great car. Nowhere did they tell me anything about the car. They tried to, and I'm not blaming, you know, using the ad, I just threw them out there as a name. But the fact is most of the car commercials are all the same way, because it's a tactic. They've just learned, well, if we can get them to think a certain way and feel a certain way, if we can invoke an emotion, we can spend the majority of our commercial creating emotion and then just throw our brand in there, and all of a sudden maybe some of that emotion will carry over. You know, if we love our family and then, hey, buy, all of a sudden maybe instead of loving their family and thinking about how much they love their family, they'll all of a sudden start to think that maybe they love. And the problem with that, and it's been a major tactic, and people use those tactics. It's like spams. People spam people because it works. There's an element that it works. But you don't have to be dumb to get an effect. You know, just someone said, oh, well, we're getting a 10%, you know, lead generation response off of doing this. Okay, what about the other 90%? You don't have to be an idiot. Maybe you could get 50 or 60 if you actually were real, and if you did something that was relevant to your product. You know, there's no excuse for, well, we could be really horrible, so we decided this is an upgrade of just being kind of horrible. You know, the monetization models of a lot of these companies, you know, Facebook and stuff like that, where they, you know, just go in and, you know, put people's, you know, photo by a suggested post or sponsored post. It's the same thing. Even though in the fine print it's saying, okay, you know, this is because so-and-so liked this page. But the mechanics of why they're doing that is because most people just see your photo and see some ad, and they're trying to take some of that credibility and that trust away from your picture and apply it to an ad of something that you may not even know is being posted on your behalf. You may not even agree with or like. You can like Sears page. That doesn't mean I like everything that Sears sells or that I would suggest it to my friends. But that's how clunky it is. Those are the current operations of how people are doing marketing, and they probably think that's cutting edge. They probably think, wow, well, we're getting this kind of response from that, and we don't care if we're kind of misusing the images of our users, or that, you know, that it's disingenuous to our consumers. You see, that's the thing that everybody involved, right? The company that allows other companies to do this associative marketing for them that's disingenuous are as bad as the people who are teaching them how to do it. Because both parties, in a way, don't really have a clue as to how to grow their company and how to brand their product, not in a way that's like politicians where it's, well, what do I have to say to get you to buy? But don't you care about your product? I mean, didn't you develop it? Doesn't it have any kind of benefit to that you find that's so worthy to talk about that's why you created it, and now you want to find the right users who would appreciate those benefits to their maximum benefit? I mean, that's where marketing should be. That's being real. And instead, we don't care about our users, right? The reason why businesses fail in social media marketing is because they can finally talk to their customers and their prospects, but the problem is they don't want to. They never did want to. So having the ability to is just annoying and a waste of time. That's why the big conversation before was focused on the ROI. Well, what's the ROI? I'm not going to do it unless you can show me how I make money with it, because I don't really care about my customers or my prospects. Never did. That's why marketing's been used and thrown out there to say, wow, we made this ad and sales went up 5%. Good. We'll go hire this other big agency to make us another ad so we can increase our sales 5%. Meanwhile, does anybody give a crap about the product or the consumer who's receiving the product? Probably not. You see, and that's the problem with marketing. And I don't think that will go that way forever. As a matter of fact, I think what's going to happen is the environment's being created where slowly over time we're going to get into a situation where for the first time there'll be an environment where an alternative makes sense, and where once that alternative is put into play, it'll turn the head or the funnel all the way on everybody on the market and what's doing. When someone goes out there and figures out, wow, I'm getting 50 and 60%, you guys are using these manipulation tactics to get, don't care about your customer, to get a 5% increase. Look, I just increased, 50 and 60% of the market because I actually flipped it around, care about my product and care about the consumer. And then use marketing as a function to deliver that in an efficient way. You see, it's like the old saying, McDonald's, using McDonald's as the example. They say, oh, we've billions served. Do they make the best hamburger on the planet? Is that why there's billions served? I don't think anybody would argue that that's the best burger on the planet. If they were able to sample all of the different burgers out there available. So why aren't these other burgers selling more? You see, it isn't about the quality. They're selling more. They're working the system to sell. I don't even consider it food myself because I don't eat like that. I don't eat fast food. I eat healthier than that. But the fact is they're selling a very low quality product, in my opinion. And as long as they can churn it out, it doesn't really matter. And the whole food industry, period, selling stuff full of chemicals and all kinds of stuff, and you wonder why everyone's getting sick, and that only fuels the healthcare industry, so they can sell a bunch of drugs to people that don't really solve the problem either. And it all comes down to greed. And the problem is, when we look about that in marketing, it doesn't have to be that way, and it's just a dumb way to do business. When you stop caring about your consumers or considering your consumer, you're not doing business smart. Okay? People can get away with it. It's just like we've seen this before in business. Back before the deregulation of the phone companies. Everyone would have loved to have an option. They hated the phone company, but they were the only gig in town. If you wanted a phone, you had to get it from these guys, and they knew that and could do whatever they wanted. But as time goes forward and the future comes on, there's more and more choices. And because things move fast, there's new opportunities for smaller players to come in. And, even though the big players can, go around buying up everything, these big tech giants are going up and they see a cool idea and they go out and buy it. But you can buy and buy and buy, but there's going to come a time when a lot of people don't want to sell. There's going to come a time when people say, hey, you know what, I could just sell this off for 50 million, but hey, I already sold one off for 50 million. Now I'm making this one because it matters to me, and I'm not just making it to sell it. I care about what it delivers. I care about the impact that it has on the world. And see, when you get to that point, and that's what's going to happen, I believe, in the future, then you're going to see a different scenario. You're going to see a customer-focused companies and employee-focused companies and just all kinds of things that just, people talk it a little bit now, but it just doesn't, it's really not, there's no teeth to it, and it's not the way it goes. So going back to this concept of being real, there's going to be tremendous power, because in all markets what happens is whatever everybody's doing, the person doing the alternative, kind of the blue ocean strategy, as that book describes, instead of going where everyone's already competing for the same thing, you go out and create a new opportunity and something different that doesn't have competition inherently because it's something new. That's when you've really innovated. That's going to change the environment, and when that's ready and all these smart people come up, we're going to see things moving too fast for the big companies to gobble every good idea out, right? When you have generations of kids that are being taught on technology and creativity, and they get out there, versus the ones right now where it's mostly employee taught and schooled people as generation coming up who are still taught to be employees, and there's still a percentage of those that's coming out that's creating the environment that we have of innovation. But that will be nothing compared to the next couple generations down that come up where the whole entire generation was brought up in creativity and innovation. And it's going to be pretty crazy. And then carving out your place, right? It's all about being ahead of the tide. That's the trick, and there's ways to do that. But going to my first point, that's right, 20 minutes in, I'll make my first point. Then I have to go super fast to get all 4 points in there in the next 10 minutes. Brands are ideas. This was the first point, and in this concept is that, we think of brands as being something tangible, but they're really not. They're an idea, and an idea can be communicated and displayed in different ways. Marketing displays that idea. Okay, your packaging displays the idea. Even your product displays the idea, but brands are not just things, right? They're ideas, and that's why companies like Apple, when Steve Jobs dies, Steve Jobs, right, was the creator of ideas. He was the director of ideas there. And at the end, you still have the brand, you have the logo, you have the patents, you have the products, you have the advertising, you have the history, and even the culture. But when you take that idea source and that idea generator out, one person, the company changed. And you can see the changes in Apple already. No matter what it wants to be, it can't be the same as it was during the time when Steve Jobs was alive. That's how powerful one person could be. And that's how powerful the right visionary and the idea person can be when that's magnified out by the rest of the company. So brands are ideas, and so you need to get in touch with your idea. What is your idea? And is it compelling? And what's it matter in the environment where you're competing with others? What is your idea, and what is it that makes you special? And that, so many people kind of touch on that. There's all kinds of books on branding, and there's all kind of different angles. But I think that one concept is probably more important to understand and more deep than all of this fluff that sits on the top of it. That brands are ideas. And instead of taking a mediocre idea and trying to cover it up with marketing and packaging and manipulation techniques, let's get back to where the company comes from, R&D, from the product. And it's going that way anyway. And when in an ultra-competitive environment, it forces you to do that. Because after all of the tactics have been used, after the brains of every consumer is saturated, at the end of the day, those things aren't going to work. And when your competition goes times 100 and all that, trying to sell a garbage product to anybody and people who don't even need it, but if you can manipulate them into thinking they need it, that won't work anymore. And so the market will take everyone there, but there's always rewards for those who go there first. So next we talk a little bit about marketing to tell stories. A lot of people talk about how important stories are in marketing, and there's elements of truth to that, but it's a small sliver and it's a piece. It's really about, there's a couple different ways that it impacts your brand and the impact today, but people are so short-term thinking when it comes to marketing due to the focus on manipulation, especially emotional manipulation, and you can only go to the well so many times. You can only take things that have nothing to do with your body wash and show them pictures of this and that, and then here's our body wash, and then here it's bikini alien girls flying up someone's nose for this shaving commercial. You can only do so much of that without addressing if there's any actual use or value to your product or why it matters. Those manipulations, people will tire of them. Again, as a society, people get saturated on and on marketing, and it's easier to ignore, and they also get more savvy, and they understand when they've been manipulated and bought something that was total garbage and all this and that. And right now, the rules are set by the big boys, but that will also change. And so why wait until it does to figure out that your marketing tactics stink and are no longer relevant? Why not get ahead of the curve and start doing what's smart now? Because that insulates you from change in the future as our society grows rapidly. So, it's really, when we think about marketing, tell stories, we think about context. And that's what a story does. It creates a context now for your brand, for your idea. And so that really wraps itself around more of the marketing. And the thing is that instead of using manipulation, right, to get an outcome at the moment, what people have found and why people talk about stories is because stories last. Stories are shareable. Stories are easier to remember. All of those things fit nicely in the social media world right now. Sharing a story, being easy to remember, compellingness, all of that fits in there. And so stories are very strong, and people should focus on first knowing what the idea is behind their brand, and then also figuring out what story then they're going to tell. How are they going to tell the story of that idea? And the third piece we're going to look at is the unseen effect of relationships. Now, this is where we dig in. One thing about me, I'm real. I might have, I'm getting close to 100,000 followers on Twitter right now. But you know what? I all the time, people, who reach out, I reach out, I chat with people, I talk with people, I share their stuff, I promote them. I don't go, I'm connected with a lot of people who are very influential in the marketing and social media world. But you know what? I'm not a respecter of persons. Like, that's cool. And there's a reason a lot of those people rise to the top, because quality does rise to the top. But you know what? There's people, to me, I don't sit there and go, well, you don't have, 5 or 10,000 followers on your Twitter account, so I'm not going to share something for you, or I'm not going to, spend time talking. Like, actually, I prefer to, I'll reach out and talk to anybody, but I prefer, if I can help that person who's got 2,000 followers and share their content or give them a shout out or whatever. Like, to me, that's awesome, because I remember when I was at that spot and there was people who were influential who wouldn't give me the time of day. They're sitting up in an ivory tower, and it's like, oh, I'm reaching out, and I wasn't a dummy when I was reaching out to them. I wanted to talk. I didn't want to be their fan. I wanted to talk to them about marketing, things they care about. They're a high caliber thinker. I'm a high caliber thinker. I wanted to talk with them. We give you the time of day, and there's still a few people like that I'm friends with all their friends, but I might send them a friend request or shout out to them, and they just ignore me, and hey, that's fine. But to me, there's an element of being real. Are you reachable? Are you attainable? Can someone have a conversation with you? I had an awesome conversation the other day, and with somebody who I was connected with, but we hadn't connected, and Hessie Jones, and a little shout out to her, and we had a great conversation. And I love getting on a video chat, just getting to know what makes you tick. Tell me about what you're doing. I'll show you kind of what I'm doing. Here's who I am. Here's who you are. How can we work together? Is there some way we can help each other, or just have a great conversation? Like, I love that about social media, is that, yes, I recently wrote a post, the inverse of social media marketing scalability. It's a mouthful, but it really talked about the power of reaching out and talking to one person, and not just looking at it from a business standpoint of how many thousands or tens of thousands of followers can we get so that we can mass, market to those people with manipulative tactics and all this and that. It's like, okay, all right, we've done that for decades. To me, there's great power in the fact that my favorite brand could reach out to me and talk to me and have a conversation. And you know what? I could tell them about the product. I could tell them what I like, what I don't like. I could actually give them insight that obviously, just the other day, I was sitting there on Pinterest, and I like to do Pinterest on my phone. I'm going through there, and I thought, what's annoying? Is I got all these boards. And every time, I don't want to share everything from one board, so their little suggestion, because I just posted something to my cars board or my geek board, then they show me those ones up at top. But the problem is, I'm not going to sit there and annoy my followers by pinning 35 posts to the same board and just spam out people. I like to post one in that category and then see something else. Maybe it's men's fashion. Maybe it's about startups. Maybe it's another. I like to have a nice little variety. But I got to sit there and flick, find that one, go back. It's just tedious to do what I want to do. Well, the other day, I go on there. I'm like, it wouldn't be hard. I'm not a tech guy, but I'm a smart guy. And I mean, as far as, I haven't studied algorithms yet. I like to collect expertise, and I'm sure I'm going to look into that kind of stuff to learn it. But I'm like, it seems like you could just scan even the comments and everything about that post and what other boards people have posted that to before, and you could make a prediction of what that post belongs to and then cross-reference my boards and say, oh, well, this looks like this is about design. So then you could have design as one of those suggestions up at the top. And I don't know if people are bugging my phone or not, but it was funny because like a week later, I going on there and I noticed the little ring starts and then it suggested, and it wasn't one of the last 3 that I did, and it actually was accurate. I was like, yeah, that's the board I'm looking for. And I'm thinking, oh, you don't have to send me a check. Well, yeah, take that back. You should send me a check, although someone else maybe thought of it as well as I did, because there's a natural progression of understanding how products work and how they should work. But the fact is that, as a user, I was using their product and thinking, wow, I would love it if it did this. And the fact that they didn't reach out to me or more people to find that out and fine-tune their product, they're probably sitting around with, 10 or 100 people who work for them. I don't know how many people work for them. But they've got people who are in charge of making the improvements and deciding all of that. Well, that's nothing compared to their user base. And so tap in there and figure it out, because those are the ones using your product. Instead of having a couple of people decide what everyone else has to deal with, maybe ask the people who use your product. And what would happen is you're just going to have a better product and happier users. Everything good is going to come out of that if you pay attention. And so anyway, it worked, and I thought, this is awesome. I enjoy the app more now. Now the app is acting smarter. Why are you making me sit through my entire alphabetical list when you could do that and help me? And that's an example of companies thinking about the user, or at least, it may not be a monetary push. There may not be a monetary benefit to that for them. I mean, there is in the big picture, but that goes to that unseen. It's just like the unseen effect of relationships. You can't put a dollar sign, or you can't exactly know what the value is of a friend, right? Of a referral from a friend. I mean, that's what they're trying to mechanically do. They're trying to force that in a lot of spaces and algorithms and all this and that. What they want access to is a personal referral. That's what Facebook's trying to get to through all their tactics and things like that. They want to be able to take, in my opinion, and force a personal referral that wasn't happening organically. Instead of sitting back and saying, well, it'd be great if you recommended this product, and then how can they get paid going to the company saying, we can get people to recommend your product? Instead of, this whole equation takes out their actual users and people who might recommend their product. You don't have to force it. You don't have to reach into my pocket and take it from me and try and use me, and use my data, and use my image. You don't have to do that. Just get smarter. Find out the information, actually reach out. But everybody wants to do it with an algorithm. They don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to talk to their users. It's the same way in most company structures, the people on top, they don't care what the cashier thinks. That's why they pay him that little amount of money. That's why they don't train him very much. The person who's the cashier doesn't understand the strategic goals of the company. And the people on top don't care because they're just pawns in the system. They're just a cog at the bottom that serves a basic purpose. But that's tremendous potential is being lost. Because those are people, and people hold the most tremendous potential out there. They're incredible resources. Talk about human resources. That's the right thing. But people are using their resources less than 1% of the use. And it's just done because they actually already have that relationship. Notice that relationship. Even them just working there, there's some type of relationship there. Why not maximize it and benefit from it? Instead, they just choose to not. And that's a problem. So some of the stuff that I'm going to write in the blog post is going to go into this concept of relationship. Things like trust. Things like perception. How do relationships affect perception? How do relationships affect trust? How do relationships affect loyalty? In a situation where constant new choices are showing up for consumers, trust, perception, and loyalty are pretty much, the brass rings of being able to sell products. So it may not look like that to some people now, but it's the underpinnings. The last point is humans behind and humans in front. And I know I went just a little bit over. You're going to have to bear with it. We're going to do an extra 10 minutes. If you don't like it, you already probably pressed pause or jumped the hell out. That's okay. I'm going to break these down into smaller videos for anybody who could hear this, obviously, smart enough to stick around. So give the fist bump out there. Boom, to all those smart people. It's funny because in a world that moves so fast, I get it. Oh, yeah, everybody wants a 2-minute video. I'm sorry. If you have something to say, if you're digging into the understandings of things, and it's just not generic information, it's going to take, you have to dedicate a little more than 2 minutes to a video. I'm sorry if everybody's attention span is so little. Now, that being said, that's why I actually break down the videos. Because I could sit here on a podcast, and I'm going to actually start doing podcasts, I think. I have to research that and dig into that. Because I think that audience naturally wants to sit down for 30 minutes or an hour and listen to some intelligent conversation. And so those are probably better consumers than people who want to be able to read an article in 2 minutes or listen to a 2-minute video. If they're impatient, that's a blowback from marketers and from people not developing themselves enough so that they had something interesting enough that would be worth sitting for 30 minutes to listen to. Because it's so much mediocre stuff, yeah, give me 2 minutes of it. Maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not. Maybe I can just, grab something and go with it. But, there's stuff for, one of my favorite authors, Malcolm Gladwell. I could just listen to that guy for hours. He's just a brilliant guy. It doesn't have to be about anything I even care about. He might be talking about the migratory pattern of blue butterflies. And I would never care about that. But somehow if he's talking about it, it's like I'm on the edge of my seat and I find it brilliant. There's great things and observations he makes. So we're going to go. We got just 2 more minutes left here. I added an extra 10 minutes instead of 30. We'll go 40. Humans behind, humans in front. This concept is about marketing. It's about the fact that humans have sat behind marketing. And I use the example of throwing a ball. And the human is back here. And the marketing is the ball. And they're throwing that ball at the consumer. And there was a human involved in it that got it going. But the human doesn't show up on the other end to the consumer. You see, there's tactics and manipulations to make ads seem human, make companies seem human. Oh, Allstate cares about you and your family. Allstate is a company. It's a structure. It's like a robot. Oh, this robot loves you. No, robots don't love you. They don't feel love. They're not human. It's an organization. People love people. Organizations are structures. Okay? And marketing has tried to create and PR and all this has tried to fool people into thinking things about a company. Oh, we support such and such. Well then, yeah, we're going to take it's a personification, right? We're going to take a human trait and apply it to an inanimate object or structure or system, okay? And that's just another form of manipulation. In reality, you know, the ad says they care about you. CEO might run you over in a crosswalk because he wants you to get the hell out of his way. He doesn't care about you. It's like, hey, wait a minute, that guy almost ran me over. Well, that's the CEO of such and such company. Oh, well, I buy their product. Does that mean the company doesn't give a crap about me and would want to run me over? Right? Well, it's because the company's not human. You see, all that's a ploy. It's like putting fake skin on a robot. We want to make you feel something towards a structure. And most of those structures don't care about you. You are a sale. You are on the dotted line worth X amount of dollars to them annually. And they paid a cost, right? Customer acquisition cost to get you in order that you would return to them an investment, return on their investment. They spent $10 to get you as a customer. They want your lifetime value to be 100. And so the commercials that come in and say, hey, we really care and we listen and all that, that's not human. The human was on the backside that created that marketing. They said, oh, what would really drive people and make people feel special? Let's show a picture of a little baby and a mom's holding the baby and all that. And there's marketing people who are sitting back there making a message to try and create a feeling. There's a human somewhere in there, right? Computers can't make compelling messages. Okay, there's a human, but they're on the back. Okay, they're behind the scenes. And then, even in the company, some companies have great people. CEO's awesome. Man, CEO would never run you over. But there's 100 other people in that company that would run you over. The company itself is made up of people, but it's also a structure and systems. And sometimes those systems, oh, sorry, that's our policy. The policy's running you over. Policy doesn't give a crap about you. Right? So there's many ways that to say as a whole that the company cares about you or is thoughtful or has these human emotions is not true. But the fact is that there's humans behind it. Now the key is if you want to get closer to being human, you need to have a human in front. Okay? That's the power of these people reaching out, talking to their customers. The CEO can reach out and talk to the customer. R&D can reach out. Their job description should include an hour of getting on Twitter and reaching out and talking to the users of their product. You know, going on to their, hey, how do you like our macaroni and cheese? How do you think it compares to the others? The focus group, forget it. Go to your customers. They gave you their money. You know what they deserve? You to listen. You to care about what they think because they're the ones buying your product. Why should they be the only one left out? Why should a focus group determine the kind of product they get? Why should the CEO decide, hey, we're going to discontinue that product because it doesn't make us money? Have you asked the customers? You can say, well, the customers didn't buy it, so therefore that's why we're removing it. Sometimes you have super fans of that product. Maybe you haven't figured out how to tap into the market larger or grow or expand that market. But people don't care. They didn't make the product for the customer. They made the product to make money. Okay? And the customer and marketing and everything else is just a tactic used to get that money. Okay? That's why I love small business. Small business is a great example because a lot of them, the owner is behind the counter. You know, when you come in, they do care that the floors are clean when you go into a small business because that's the owner. He's doing customer service. He's reaching his customer. Well, social media is allowing us to do more of that and larger businesses to do more of that and to reach out and to do that. And it's one of the big silent revolutions that's going on. It's a revolution because the ability's there. The guns are loaded for the revolution. Okay? You have the technology to do this, but nobody knows about it. Nobody's picking it up or they're not using it that way. They're trying to use it the old way. Like, hey, great, now we can advertise more to people. And it's like, well, no. Now you do something new. Do something you couldn't do before. Connect with your employees. Okay? Listen to your customers. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could do that you could never do before. But it has to come from, do we care? And for most businesses, they don't. So for small businesses, it's great. Easy to scale. They can come in and do it even better. And that'll allow the whole bottom of the market to rise up, right? And do better. And get away from these one or two companies that own everything, right? That are putting a lot of those small businesses, out of business or crushing them. Doesn't have to be that way. You have incredible opportunities. That's the power of being real. You're a real person, okay? If you're a marketer, then you better figure out how to get as real as possible. Don't just do manipulative tactics and all this to get a result. Don't tell me about your conversion number and your this and your open rate. I don't care. You're just seeing how fast, like a pickpocket, you can reach into somebody's wallet, take their money. That doesn't interest me. But if you actually care about what you're doing and your product and all that, and you want to do it smart, that's a different story. Now we have something to talk about. So, till next time, hit subscribe. Be looking for the podcast. I think I'm going to do some research into that and figure out what that's going to all take, and hopefully get that going. And check out the smaller videos. I'm going to break each one of these points down into 10 minutes. All of them are different. I'm not scripted or anything, so if you like this, you probably like the individual topics as well. Leave a comment, subscribe, reach out to me, connect with me on social media, and if for some reason I don't see you in the crowd, then raise your hand and say, hey, a second time, and say, hey, buddy, hey, I just followed you. Don't be afraid to ask me to follow you back, because sometimes the flow of everything's going so fast, I missed, somebody got missed. Hey, I followed him. He didn't follow me back. Well, I'd love to connect with you. That's why I get on social media. I love to collaborate with people. If people have got a project or a company or something and they want to grow it, man, call me up. Reach out to me. Let me see what you're doing. Maybe I can help. Maybe we could work together. I'm wide open. That's what I love. That's the freshness and the excitement every day when I get to meet awesome people and see what they're doing. And I come in, bam, 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 look at things, see how they work, and then quickly find ways to make them better. So till next time, I'm going to say thanks for spending this time with me, and have a superb day.